According to Tucker, you have to believe Tucker. And if you don't, it's probably because you're part of the conspiracy or the cover-up, because you're owned, because you become the establishment, because you're weak and you can be taken over by nefarious forces. The only man of courage in this routine is apparently the truth seeker Tucker, who asks questions but doesn't actually examine the evidence.
Yes, you might be thinking that is all. Take a look at these.
You blame society, you don't have an answer. So it must be a conspiracy. There must be some sort, and you're just asking questions. You don't know, right? This is the game that is played by so many corrupt commentators, just asking questions. I don't have to show you evidence that something terrible is happening. I don't have to actually demonstrate how the thing is happening. I don't have to tell you who the problem is. Wink, wink. But I can just tell you right now that there is a problem. But even, and if I'm asked about it, hey, I'm just asking questions. Now, let me tell you something about just asking questions for a second. Just asking questions is a game for children. My son is 7. He can just ask questions. My daughter is 10. She can just ask questions. If you are 50 and you are just asking questions, I don't think you're just asking questions. I think that your level of curiosity is actually quite low. I think that you don't care enough to know or know enough to care. I think that the vast majority of people who are in the just asking questions business have an answer that they want to suggest, but they know there's no evidence for it, so instead they hide behind just asking questions. In other words, they're completely full of shit.
I find it fascinating that many conservatives are now lambasting Tucker Carlson for asking certain hard questions about narratives we've been fed by the government. Do I agree with Tucker on all of his views? Of course not. I don't agree with anybody on 100% of their views. That would be a weird thing to do. But I also think it's a weird thing to do to lambast somebody for questioning certain narratives when in fact that's what it means to be a skeptical citizen of a truly democratic nation.
Yes, I never knew I would see these. These are people I used to watch before I even started creating YouTube videos, but seeing them at this time fighting on a daily basis, I don't really get it. They have a common enemy to fight, but instead they are going back and forth on each other. This is not what I like to see. It saddens my heart to see this. If you are fighting yourself, then I don't know who actually will win, because you have a common enemy you were supposed to see to continue to fight against. What is going on? Ben Shapiro is replying to Carlson after a segment he had with Joe Rogan. I think I did a lot of videos about that, where Ben says that, like, Tucker Carlson should not say that. He should not say this. But I don't see where there's a problem.
I mean, I think that every Jew throughout world history who has a brain and knows history has always wondered if a country that is not a Jewish state is going to eternally provide them security guarantees and full citizenship, of course. I mean, that's I think to think that that's why the existence of the state of Israel is the single greatest guarantor of my loyalty to the United States.
Well, you could say the same about the atomic bomb, right?
Yes, you could.
And you could say that we have to develop it like Oppenheimer felt before the Nazis did.
I love that. How'd that work? How'd that work?
Well,
I love, by the way, that people on my side, I'll just admit it, on the right, you know, have spent the last 80 years defending dropping nuclear weapons on civilians. Like, are you joking?
Right.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, well, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil. Like, it's not a tough one, right? It's not a hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish sort of intellectual exercise to justify, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening? Would you baby Hitler, you know, famously?
Right.
So I don't know why we're sitting back and allowing this to happen if we really believe it will extinguish the human race or enslave the human race. Like,
Yes, I believe you've seen this. That is Ben Shapiro, expressing himself like, this is my stand about America. That is Tucker Carlson on another way, expressing himself on what he thinks. I believe these ideas are all okay. We should be able to ask questions. We should be able to, express ourselves in different ways, even if we disagree.
Something deeply malign about the United States, something deeply wrong with the United States. This was made apparent over the weekend. Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan's show, Obviously, I'm very friendly with Joe. I think Joe does a great job during his interviews. And there was a clip from this interview that went particularly viral. This is a clip in which Tucker Carlson calls the United States evil for having dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, ending World War II, and then suggests that anyone who would justify that is also evil, which is a very traditionally left-wing perspective. It is not traditionally a particularly right-wing perspective because most people on the conservative side of the aisle tend to believe that America is a force for good in the world. And as we'll discuss, it turns out that dropping the atomic bomb on Japan was necessary for ending World War II and likely saved millions of lives, both American and Japanese. So when it comes to the moral calculus of leaders killing people, that's the realm of normal politics. So for example, he will downplay Vladimir Putin's evil in killing his political opponents and invading sovereign countries and killing civilian populations in those sovereign countries by basically saying all leaders kill people. But when it comes to ending World War II by dropping the bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which did bring an end to the war, that is a moral stain, a moral blight that America simply has been corrupted by. So here he was talking about Vladimir Putin killing people. Again, this is just a couple of months ago.
You should challenge some ideas. For instance, you didn't talk about freedom of speech in Russia. You did not talk about Navalny, about assassinations, about the restrictions on opposition in the coming elections.
I didn't talk about the things that every other American media outlet talks about.
Why?
Exclusively.
Yes, this
because
is my
those
question.
are covered, and because I have spent my life talking to people who run countries in various countries and have concluded the following: that every leader, including my leader, every leader kills people. Some kill more than others. Leadership requires killing people, sorry. That's why I wouldn't want to be a leader.
Because that's very blasé about leading people. But when it comes to ending World War II, then all of a sudden the United States bears the stain of a giant that can never be alleviated. Or if it can be, he has not really spelled out. So this isn't actually America first, ironically. This is actually kind of fascinating. It's
At this point, Ben Shapiro is going off on Tucker Carlson for reasons like this. And some people say it is because Tucker Carlson is supporting Candace Owens and against what is happening in Palestine, things like that. And we should stop sending money to foreign countries because we don't even have enough. These are things going on. People are expressing themselves, and Ben Shapiro believes that if you are standing against, things like this, it therefore means you hate them. That is what Ben Shapiro believes, and it has caused a lot of problems. So social media, I've seen people that used to support Ben Shapiro switching, like, I don't follow this guy again because of things like this. So you will see war sometimes when it happens, it will divide people because at this point, it is just because of conflicting ideas. If this war stopped today, I believe they will find a common ground, to agree on certain things like they used to do before. We saw what happened to Candace Owens recently, no longer with the Daily Wire for reasons like this. Candace Owens spoke up, they disagree. He got Ben Shapiro to a certain point. He had to express himself like, this is crazy. And Candace Owens was terminated. Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson, now came in. They're having back and forth. A lot of people concluded it is simply because of this issue.
The thing about Biden right now, people are like, why does Biden want to run again? Even if he doesn't really want to run again,